Hey runners, you know I'm a big fan of Maffetone training, especially for us older runners. But if you go buy Dr. Phil's book and dive right into his training, you'll be sorry. In this episode, I'll explain why you shouldn't start strict Maffetone heart rate training and what I suggest you do instead. Hey, welcome to the Forever Runner podcast. I'm your host, Herb the Forever Runner. I'm a heart attack survivor, ultra runner, and longevity coach for runners over 50. Listen in each week as we discover how to master your running to enjoy an active lifestyle as you age. To learn more, head to foreverrunner.com for my free quick start guide. But for now, let's dive into the session. So I believe that Maffetone training is the best training for us older runners. By using that training method, you'll effortlessly run faster, it'll build your aerobic endurance, and you'll burn off your excess body fat. The premise of Maffetone training is to keep your training heart rate solidly in your fat burning zone utilizing the formula 180 minus your age. And for runners in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, we're talking training heart rates around 115 to 125 beats per minute. And that's where the problem starts. You see, most older runners can't maintain their running pace at that low of a heart rate, even on level ground. That leads to adopting more of a run-walk training where every time you exceed your training heart rate, you stop running and walk until your heart rate drops back down to your calculated heart rate. That's how I started out, and I'm sure you agree that's a frustrating way to train. On top of that, it can take several weeks before you see any improvement. So a lot of older runners either don't start Maffetone training to begin with, or they quit before they get the benefits. And that's a big mistake. The reason most runners struggle with Maffetone training is they really don't know how to run slow efficiently. And they are carb dependent, which blocks your fat burning ability. And they don't run consistently enough to build their base. And on top of that, they're expecting immediate sort of results. And this is why I don't recommend older runners just diving into strict Maffetone training. As a longevity coach, I see Maffetone training as a lifelong endeavor. Instead of thinking it as like a 10-week training plan, think of it as a 3-year project. That's why I recommend doing some pre-work before strictly following the formula. I call this process Reverse Maff, where you spend some time getting your heart rate down before you start following your calculated Maff training heart rate. So here's the difference in my approach. In strict Maffetone training, you keep your heart rate steady and work on increasing your running pace. In reverse Maff, you keep your running pace steady and you work on lowering your heart rate at that running pace. So to do this, we start out by determining what I call your minimum viable pace. Now, this is the slowest that you can run on level ground without stopping at whatever distance that you like to run. And this is the pace that you'll be using for the next several weeks. While you're doing that, we do a video gait analysis to check out your running form, because most older runners are not very efficient, slow runners. And there's some tweaks we can make to improve your running form, and it's a lot easier to do when you're running slow than when you're running faster. Then we also set a personalized run schedule that you can commit to and work on getting fat adapted while you're at it. And what I see after a few weeks is that older runners get better at running slow. They start burning body fat and their heart rate starts dropping at that minimum viable running pace that we first determined. So once that gets to down close to what your calculated Maffetone heart rate was, then you can switch over to the more strict Maffetone training heart rate. So the Maffetone community will probably scoff at this because it just doesn't follow the formula. But the way I see it, you've managed to run okay for the last several years without Maffetone training. So what's the harm in taking just a few weeks to get prepared before you start? Otherwise, you're going to be just like most everyone who tries this. If you're an older runner, you're going to go out there and you're going to struggle, you're going to be frustrated, and you'll quit. And you'll miss out big time on all the great benefits of low heart rate training following the Maffetone method. So if you're a runner in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, and you're tired of being sore and injured all the time, and you'd like to experience effortless running with no injuries for the rest of your running career, hit me up. I'm at foreverrunner.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.